We bought 40 acres in 1993 and decided it would be a great place to finally build a home and retire.
I am fifth generation. My great-great-grandfather homesteaded here.
Yep, let's go. Let's go. The gate's that way. Let's go. What are you waiting on, Maya? Yep. Sarah, go on. Go on.
We have 300 head of elk that come down out of the high country. They're incredibly beautiful.
I'm a fourth generation rancher. When I was little, Dad would let me have 2 cows out of the herd so I could have my own herd.
One of my favorite things is the red-winged blackbirds. And it's usually, honey, honey, the red-winged blackbirds are back, you know. This has been my favorite place I've ever lived in my life, I must say.
Representatives, is on your watch.
People have called and complained to every regulatory
The House and
entity
Senate
out
consider
there.
legislation today directing President Bush.
Today's witnesses represent oil companies that made more than $36 billion in profits.
$120 a barrel. Now is not the time for topping off.
There she is. We call it our new neighbor, Neighbor 907.
We are in a split estate situation where we own the surface and someone else owns the mineral rights. And what happens in Colorado, and I think in most Western states, is the mineral rights are dominant.
The law on mineral extraction goes back hundreds of years that says the mineral owner has a right to extract that mineral, and to a certain extent can extract it and impact the surface without compensation.
We have 70 acres here, and I can't convince them that they need to drill somewhere besides 200 feet from our house.
The energy policy has been to drill, 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 and drill some more.
They're a very strong industry. They've got a tremendous amount of political influence and an awful lot of money.
As a civil servant, I spoke out, but it's difficult to do so because you feel constantly that you're risking your job or your family's future.
Oh yeah, it burned.
Yeah, I'd say.
As I sat there and looked out my window into my backyard, all I could think was, there's no way I can stay out of this. I'm sitting here with all of the right resources. These people need help.
This is before any problems, before we lived in Rifle. And then everything changed.
They're motivated by profits, and unfortunately, they're motivated by short-term profits. They don't take the long view.
A couple times I said, you come out here and live. You come out here and live in my house for a week. I have no rights.
The Rocky Mountains are seeing an unprecedented boom in oil and gas drilling. Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Utah. The boom is happening all over the country. There's oil and gas operations in 32 states right now, but the Rocky Mountain states are really seeing the vast majority of the expansion. And it's overflowing into communities where people are seeing this right in their backyards.
I'll show you where they wanted to put this location, one of the first places that they wanted to put it.
They just surprise you and say, we have to put a well out there. You don't have any say in it.
A split estate situation is when somebody who owns the surface of their land does not own the resources that are underneath their land. For example, oil and gas or other minerals. A private person could own a house with land, and the federal government or another private individual might own the resources under it. The person who owns the oil and gas has rights to access that oil and gas, which means that whoever owns the surface probably can't control what happens on their own property.
All of a sudden, I just find new stakes out in the middle of my alfalfa field. I believe this stake represents their outer boundary of their pad. Just guessing it would be about 200 feet from our house, which is awful close.
Because we said, we don't want the smell. And they said, well, I'd rather smell like gas oil than livestock. And I said, you're crazy. I said, you can't get sick from smelling livestock.
You feel so helpless, you know.